Hello and welcome to the Permission Mission Show. My name is Mary McElhat and I'm your host today. We are broadcasting live in Las Vegas, Nevada. I have a very special show today, one that is dear to my heart, and I hope that it'll be dear to many other families out there. We want to honor loved ones who have passed away to addiction. I am so grateful to introduce to you my daughter. She has been on the show before. She did talk a little bit about her addiction and how it has impacted her life. And Kayla, welcome to the show. And I'm so grateful that you're here today because there was a day that I didn't think that you would. So what a blessing. And we always want to think about all those who didn't have a chance to even talk about their addiction with their family, who didn't even have a chance to talk about mortality, which is what this show's all about, normalizing the conversation on mortality so that we're better aware, better prepared, and also find peace with those who have passed before us. So Kayla, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
How are you feeling about today?
You know, I am very excited. I think there's always that nervousness of talking about addiction, but also.
Oh, we want to make sure it's on. Mic up.
No, here.
Oh.
It is
Here we
on.
go.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
on.
There we go.
All right.
Sorry about that.
We want you all to be able to hear Kayla, so let's make sure.
Modern technology.
You know, I think it's a touchy subject for some. I really want to normalize it though. And if that starts with my story, then I would love to just tell my story and get it out there because, like you said, there's a lot of moms like you and parents that would not even have this chance to sit here right now together because of addiction. And
Sure.
it is not talked about enough. January 3rd of 2023, I decided to change my life and be clean and live a clean and sober life. And so
2016.
2016, sorry. 2016.
I'm like, oh, 2023.
No, not
Tell me more.
2023. No, 2016, January 3rd of 2016, I decided to change my life. And it was not easy. It was not easy. It took a lot of work. But I am glad that I am able to sit here today and just kind of tell my story to give hope to other people and to give some, you know, I don't think with any parents there will ever be closure when it comes to addiction, but know that I hear you and we see you. And, you know, there's so many families affected by this and we do not talk about it enough in this country.
I remember when I found out, you know, like I think when my body suspected some different things, but addiction is scary. It's like I didn't have the answers as a mother. I thought I had done something really wrong. I was so afraid not knowing about drugs myself, you know, growing up in a family with some addiction, but I didn't know about drugs because I truly thought that if I didn't do them, my children wouldn't do them. And that really was something that was shocking to me. And I was so afraid of it because I didn't think for the first time that I'd have an answer for my children who I love so much. So walk them back to prior to 2016.
Yes. So prior to 2016, I started my
Speak up a little bit. Yeah.
I started my addiction. My addiction started, you know, at 12 years old. I was actually telling my mom when we were in the car today, my addiction started at 12 years old. I was very rebellious, always, you know, if I wanted it, I was going to get it with my mom. My mom was a single mom. My parents divorced at an early age. And there was already that trauma building inside of me. And I remember just wanting to take control, and nobody was going to tell me what to do, and that kind of rebellious side. So when I would go out and hang out with friends, they would be doing it, picked the wrong crowd, and it just started dabbling. It was all fun at first. Then I believe you were you were out of state with my dad, my stepdad.
Yeah.
And I was in a really bad car accident. I had been T-boned. So I was rushed to the hospital.
And you were with a friend.
And I was with my friend. She was driving.
She was driving.
And they took me to the hospital. And this is, I believe, where it all started. They had prescribed me in the emergency room hydrocodone. And I was maybe 13, 14 years old. And all they needed was just a guardian to be there. And I had somebody, or not even a guardian, not even a parent. They just needed somebody over the age of 18 to be there. And they prescribed me hydrocodone. I went to the pharmacy, I picked it up, I took that pill, and it numbed me. Every pain from my childhood, it just numbed me. It numbed me. It made me, I didn't have to feel anymore. I didn't have to feel my parents fighting. I didn't have to feel, the things that we go through as teenagers. I didn't have to feel that. I didn't, just everything that comes along with, trauma bonding kind of as you grow, as you get older. And that led me to just, to Oxycontin, when Oxycontin was really big in the United States. Just kind of, so I had moved out of my mom's house a lot. I was
between mom and dad,
between
her
mom and
her
dad,
biological
my
dad.
biological dad, and kind of with my biological dad, I got to do whatever I wanted. So it was, there was no foundation, no rules. And I started Oxycontin, went back to my mom's at 15 years old, tried to go back to school, get back on the right track.
Live the boring life at her mom's
Live
house.
the boring life at my mom's, which was, I look back so crazy. But during that time, obviously I had a really long, for myself, for being 30 years old, I lived most of my life in I am an addict, but being an active addiction. And that all led me to one day, I'm not going to say who, but somebody very close to me had told me that it would be better to try heroin. It was cheaper and it would take away the sickness. And from that day on was me living in a black hole. And it's kind of crazy. The place that I used it at my first time is actually my business that I own today. So it's kind of cool in a way. It's a full circle, but that is how it happened. And I don't want to say lost, but in addiction, as many people know that are in addiction, we lose a lot. And I think the one hardest part for me was when CPS got involved. My oldest daughter, was temporarily taken from me, and my mom had to step in. And they gave me a couple pamphlets. I left the house, and I remember crying, sobbing on the bathroom floor, reading these pamphlets of how I was going to get my daughter back. Because at that time, I had tried to go get help. During my pregnancy, I went to a methadone clinic that the hospital referred me to. They had me on a very high dose of methadone. almost lethal, and kicked me out of the methadone clinic. And, I was kind of on my own from there, and had to give over my daughter to my mom. And I will say, I spiraled out of control from there, out of control, went
Yeah.
even more into addiction. And, I've had the jail go rounds here in Vegas, which I'm not proud to say, but I have, and it actually may have been the best thing for me. I ended up going to jail many times, but one time in particular, it was 3 days before I was going to have court for my second daughter, and she was going to be a part of the system, and she was going to be taken from me. And I was picked up 3 days before. I had made the court date and went to trial for that because I was going to lose her for good. And I got out, hit the ground running, went to as many meetings as I could. You know, um, everybody in the meeting, I wanted what they had, and I saw people losing that had lost their kids that had got them back, and I had just a little bit of hope. That just kept me going, and so I took it to trial. My mom was behind me always, which I thank you for, because as we know in addiction, we lose a lot of people's trust. And at this time, I had already had a year in, and I'll never forget when the judge said, "This is like losing a loved one." I mean, it was very serious. And she said the best interest of July was to be with her mom. And I just, from that day forward, it really gave me even a bigger purpose to tell my story and to see how this world has evolved even more into addiction, even further with fentanyl poisoning, fentanyl abuse. And it just gives me more of a purpose to sit here and talk about it and talk about how there is a way, when you want to get, nobody signs up to be an addict,
Right.
like I said. So if we can do something about that and just tell our stories, then.
I heard a thing on Facebook. It says, never be a prisoner of your past. It was a lesson, not a life sentence.
Yes. And in the beginning, I thought, what would my life have been like if I had never touched a drug, right? But I now know there's such a bigger purpose, that I was meant to be everything that I have seen, everything that I have done in my life. There was a purpose for it. I wouldn't, and I said, cliches are cliches for a reason. I would not be who I am today if this did not happen to me, right? And I'm grateful. I am a grateful recovering addict today.
Let's touch on that. I, as a mother, feeling very hopeless many times, not knowing how to hit the ground running because I didn't feel like I had enough answers or enough knowledge about the drug addictions. And I remember wanting to really just shut down and run away because it was so hard to think that I could even have answers to help my children without having any experience myself. But I too, like I wasn't going to give up. And I remember I did a post several years ago, and I was very scared, but I said, I am going to put it out there for what I want the outcome to be. And that was, I am a proud mother of recovering heroin addicts. And as crazy as that was to put out there, it was my first time of saying, I'm going to own what's happening and not run away and trust this process, because when you're parents, you just want your kids to always do great things,
Yeah.
never realizing that a child could do great things even through an addiction.
Mhm.
Because in my mind, I always just thought, there's no chance, that there's no, I mean, they give a 1% chance for someone to recover from heroin.
Mhm.
That's crazy to me. That's scary to me. And when I saw you really starting to fight for your life and fight for what was important to you, your family, your children, that was a moment that I realized as a mother, like, I can learn how to unconditionally love,
Yes.
because it's easy to love your children when they're doing all the right things.
Mhm.
It's much harder to love them when they're doing things that you don't think they should be doing or that are harmful to them.
Very.
So, um, yeah, Kayla, I mean, I wanted to ask you, since you were talking about like, what would your life have been if you didn't? Because my question to you was, what would you have done, like, if you didn't do this, kind of, because you were a big soccer player?
Mhm.
We were always out there on the soccer field watching you just
Yes.
tear up the field and hit those goalies, and you were
Championships. So you were
championship. You
making
were,
sure I made sure that I was trying to get every championship, and I would not just play one part of the field. I played it all except goalie. That's the only part I didn't play, and then my coach would yell at me
yeah,
because I just wanted to be everywhere and
because
just win the game, right?
learning how to
Well,
play with
it-
other relationships, like
and
learning how to play with other
be a
players,
team.
be a team instead of
Instead of
I and
I'm
T.
going to do everything to make sure. And I still have that issue in my life. I look at it and I'm like, okay, Kayla, you're
Still working on
controlling
it.
everything. Like you're trying to control everything and you don't have to. So yeah, I thought I was going to be the next Mia Hamm. I wanted to be a professional soccer player and then kind of, you were a single mom. So it was hard. I thought, well, the schooling isn't there because, at school, I had a drug dealer in high school that was in the school that I would get pills from. So, I mean, talk about trying to, go to school and then you're messed up. And it's just, I knew schooling that I wasn't going to get, a grant to be some Mia Hamm, so I kind of, that dream, I guess, went away. And it's funny, this weekend, I was just running around with my son, Braden, he's 4. I was just running around with Braden playing soccer, and Braden kind of walked away. I think he more wants to do like, football or basketball. And he wasn't into the soccer, which hurt my feelings a little bit, maybe July or Priscilla. But,
Yeah.
my husband was watching me just play soccer by myself. You remember I'd kick the wall?
Forever.
My mom would get so
Ever and
irritated
ever.
because I would just kick the wall with my soccer ball and she'd be like, stop. I even broke I told her like 5 years later, I was like too soon, but I broke one of her candles up at the top and we had to hurry up and replace it, me and Brianna, my sister.
Yeah.
And we're digging the candle wax out. So purple candle. And it was looked almost identical. It was perfect. And we put it back up there. But I loved soccer. And then, I wanted to be an attorney was my thing. I wanted to go to law school. I wanted to be an attorney and do that. And I'm actually really grateful I didn't, that never happened. I really am not. The one thing I do like playing soccer, and I did find an adult soccer team because I guess I'm old now. Is what the internet tells me for playing soccer. So
soccer for
soccer for seniors.
At 30.
Maybe I could start that because they're all they're all kids, and I'll run circles around them. So that's something that even now today I put into my life. I love to be athletic and go out there and work out and do things, and it's really good for your mental health too, especially being an addict. My brain is 100 miles an hour. It's running at 100 miles an hour and always wanting to do something. And so I thought that was pretty cool this weekend that I got to just play by myself and just, do flips on the trampoline, and
Jeez.
I have a broken, it's not broken anymore, but I have a broken back from a car accident. And, but I was still, you can't stop me. You
No,
can't stop me. So,
no. Talk a little bit more about, how do you approach somebody who's still in addiction? How do you approach them? Like, what can we learn on the side that's not an addiction, meaning we're just on the outside, we're watching and we feel hopeless and helpless. What kind of advice would you give to us on the outside, and then also somebody who's still in addiction?
I would say, so this comes from within my family. My brother is still in active addiction. He is just, it breaks my heart, because one of the things that I'm very passionate about is fentanyl. I am very passionate about that, because it's gone to heroin. Now, I think Jason DeFord said it best. The Sackler family is looking like saints right now with the fentanyl abuse, and my brother is on fentanyl right now as we speak, and it breaks my heart. And the only thing, at first I wanted to fix everything, and you can have this life that I have now. And I had taken him. I remember I was about 2 months pregnant, and everybody thought I was crazy. And I took him to the hospital to go through detox. And I flew back to Colorado, and I got the call that he walked out on detox. And it broke my heart, and
Yeah.
for about 1 minute, I thought to myself, I'm not helping him anymore. I'm done. I've done all this for him. I've done, right? And I'm done. And it
Been
took me
there.
about a
Been there
minute
several
to
times.
say, Kayla, you were sitting right there where he was many times. And don't think you can't go back there and be sitting right where he is. And I think that's where the unconditional love, I say, don't, if you're, don't just say you're going to unconditionally love somebody. It's through actions. And so today, even though my brother is in active addiction with fentanyl, something I'm very serious about, I love my brother more than anything in the world. If anything were to happen to him today, tomorrow, I know that I gave my brother nothing but unconditional love. And
Yeah.
there's nothing that, I would see people in jail that were, they didn't get packages from their loved ones, and because they were addicts. And unfortunately, our country puts this stigma around, we're just addicts. And I get it. It's a lot to deal with as parents. As I said today, my daughter is 11 years old, and in 1 year, she will be where I was doing Oxycontin. And I can't even look at her and think that, right?
Right.
And so I understand as a parent, my daughter would never do that. But the reality is, because I've been in the situation, we need to educate more. And this is happening to our teenagers, high schools, and not even, people are dying, not even on purpose. They're dying because they, decided to go out and have fun, and they took a pill and it killed them.
Yeah.
And now their parents are left to deal with this whole mess that, and the parents don't understand it because they didn't have the warning signs like you did, right?
Well, I learned the warning signs as I went through the process of telling myself over and over again, like, I'm not checking out completely of this. These are my children. this is a part of our life. I mean, if you had cancer, if you had going through a divorce, or you had something devastating happen to you all, it's not my job to check out. It's my job to figure out as a mother and as a how at, with boundaries,
Yes.
but how to keep engaged, how to keep hope, and how to keep faith, and how to be there for when, those stars line up and they say, okay, I'm ready to get help. If it's 6 times or 8 times or whatever amount of times that it takes.
Whatever amount of times. I talked to my mom, and I said to her, if I was actively using right now, and my brother was, I keep trying to say his name, and my brother was actively, we saw him and he overdosed. Would you want, or we were talking about Narcan, and for people that don't know what Narcan is, it's something that you put up somebody's nose when they are overdosing, and it can help them. So in a lot of states right now, we're fighting because our first responders are not carrying this Narcan. And I asked my mom, I said, as your daughter and as your son, if we were going through an overdose, would you now be okay with administering Narcan? And without a doubt, she goes, of course.
Of course.
Because it would save my child's life. And a lot of people think that we're giving permission to let these people overdose or do fentanyl or whatever, and we're giving them permission, and that's why we don't want to have Narcan. But listen, like I said, it is what it's reality. This is reality. And statistics showed that 109 people a day are dying from addiction, and almost 70% of those people will be fentanyl related. And just in the 5 minutes that we have talked, that's the statistics. Is that 5 people will die in 5 minutes, and 70% chance that those will be because of drugs and fentanyl poisoning. And I think I always go back to what Jason DeFord said, because it's 190 people die in the U.S. That's about a 737 aircraft could carry. Could you imagine the media that would get? But because it's 190 drug addicts, we don't feel that way, fortunately. Our world has learned to bully and shame addicts and not get to the root of the problem. And that is what we need to get to, is the root of the problem. When you walk into a hospital and you tell them that you are an addict, it is a completely different story that you would get from somebody walking in with cancer. That is not how we should be treating the people that we love. Every person at home has a family member. Most every single person that is watching right now or here today has a family member that has had a problem with addiction. And so this is sits very close to my heart. The numbers are just rising. So sad. And like I say, it's part of my family. My brother is actively. What we are talking about today is going on right now. He is out on the streets doing this. And as much as I just could say, look at me, you could have this life, right?
Yeah.
It is not until he will be ready.
Yeah.
And have I imagined, like, my brother may never be ready, but you keep that faith, because I'm telling you, the only thing that kept me going was my faith. That's all I had left, is my faith. And so, no matter who your higher power is, whatever that may be, I think, for me, it was deciding I knew it was going to be hard, but I just kept that faith. And it's really awesome. Not a lot of people are as fortunate as I was to have somebody like you, have a mom, have a parent behind them in, running this race I call to live.
Literally running
running this race.
a race. I
Mhm.
have chased Kayla down streets. I have knocked on the windows
So drug
of
dealers.
drug dealers. I have done some crazy things, but when you're a mom, right, a mama bear, you're going to do anything to protect her cubs. And then one day I had an epiphany, though. I was like, well, my life matters too.
Yeah.
And how can we let everyone's life matter? So I had to be more reasonable about some of the actions that I would take and put it into my faith as well. And people, like go to people who, drug is kind of like death. They don't want to be discussed because it's depressing, it's hard, people don't have the answers, yet the answers don't really come until you do talk about it.
Right. And
So-
death is, yes, it's just like drugs, because we have this like stigma around it that's so, it doesn't need to be there. And the more we talk about it, I think, the two greatest things that I can talk about are death and drugs, and addiction. I am there, but my heart goes out to anybody who has lost their child, now having 7 children, for not
4 bonus children.
bonus
She
children
adopted
for me.
into 4 bonus.
Yes.
Or you married into 4. Yeah, because they're all going, wait, she went from 1 child, 2 child, 4 child, 7 children.
To having 2 children to having now 7. And
Yeah.
it is a blessing, though. And I just, I think that my heart just really goes out to the people whose families that have lost somebody in addiction, because like I said, as we're speaking, somebody is dying, a family, a mom, a dad, somebody is having to deal with that. And I don't know yet what that looks like, of being a parent and having my child be an addict, but I could only imagine. Right.
What would you say to them? Like, what would you look for, Kayla? Because I think, like me, some of us are just naive. We think if we didn't do it, then they won't do it. Or children have a really great way of persuading us that nothing's wrong.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So what are some signs for parents to observe, or what are some indications that they could then, check things out? Even if it's nothing, it's better to check it out than like me to sit here and think it's going to go away. And I knew something was off. I just couldn't pinpoint it quick enough.
Right. Yeah. By the time I think you had pinpointed it, I was already long gone. But definitely tried to hide it from you. But I would say, asking, and I'm going to speak from myself, I started straying away from my friends, my peers, my good friends, hobbies. It sounds so cliche, but it's so true. My hobbies, I started to stray away from. I started to stray away from soccer, started to stray away from my family, really being close with my family. And if I did come to any family things, I would have to be on something and hide it. You'll see little things. I would go to, you would catch me. There was a few times she caught me. But just really looking out for those things. And like with my daughter, backpacks.
My daughter, a big indication. I realized my kids were out of school, and why carry? Well, you had a purse.
I had a purse when I was
my
in high
son
school,
with a backpack, and I thought, it's summertime. What do you need a backpack for? As Micah calls it, pack-back.
Pack-pack, yeah, our pack-pack. Yeah, no, and asking for money a lot. your money's going away. When you're working, you know, all of a sudden your money is just disappearing because we're spending it on drugs. And I think those are little indicators, but I would say more so, and I don't even say this just for addicts, but as a mother, me being a mom, me being a mother, I even talk to, you know, I may be a little too much because I'm like, don't, and listen, this is reality today, like I say, and some parents may not agree with me, but I don't even let her, I mean, I let her trick or treat. I do, but I'm like, don't, if anybody hands you anything or tells you to take anything, do not take it from them, you know, because it's just what it is right now. And it's sad that we have to live that way. It's sad that I have to tell her that, because, you know, we want to believe in this world of everything is great and everybody is great, but it's just not that way. And so, you know, I always just tell her, don't take anything from anybody. I am the mom now, and I never thought I'd be this, going through candy. I go through their candy
and take out the best
and I
parts.
take out the best parts for me. And then
you're observant.
But you have to be observant. And, you know, I talked to her, even being this young, Priscilla too. I just talk to them and I want them to be comfortable with me, that they can come to me with really anything. And as much as it would hurt, if my daughter came to me and said, and told me that she was trying this and or whatever, experimenting or addicted to this, I would way rather them come to me with honesty and build that trust than not. And I think I'm on a good way with that. You know, my kids, they do come and tell me little things, and it's like, that's you. Your kids are going to just, if they don't have anybody to trust and at home, they're just going to go find it in other people, places, and things. And it's what we want to stop. That is definitely what we want to stop. And
I think
it's just killing.
One thing I have done well that I may have not known about the drugs, but I've always been really big on feelings and how you're doing. Right. And just how are you doing? If something's not going well, let's talk about it. You know what I mean? Like, that's probably what's kept me and us going through all of this, to be able to just have some direction to keep going until we got to this place, because it wasn't always like this. No. Kayla and I Kayla's my one who could, if she could change her own diapers, she would. I am more of the doting mother who wants to do everything. And you taught me, like, I got it, you know, like she was like, I got it, Mom, at 2 years old. I'm like, okay, like different than the other kids. But,
well, now we have this thing where I make her hug me for 30 seconds.
Yes,
and she gets kind of awkward with it, but I make her do it because
she does.
It feels good in the end. But just that loving mother, nurturing side of you, I love. And listen, I'm not going to sit here today and say that everything is perfect and every day is great and rainbows and butterflies. It's not. No. There's even still times that I've had to come to you and just cry and say what's going on and my feelings. And that's really what the best thing that you can do is just let it out. And we've been able to gain that trust. I've been able to gain that trust with you, where, you know what, I can go to my mom and tell her some things that I wouldn't want anybody to know. And that's awesome. You know, that's where I think that's ideal in a mother-daughter relationship. But, you know, when you are in addiction, it's hard because you don't want to be a part of that, you know, 1%. And you feel like you have failed. And especially as you get older into it, I felt like I failed my daughter and both my daughters. I felt like I had failed them and I had let my family down, and we are our biggest critics. And so, you know, as much as if I walked up the street and saw an addict, I just bless them, because I could be there right now, and I know where they have been. We all walk different. We all have a different ways of our walk of life, but we all have one thing in common, and I just say our world just needs so much more compassion. Like you said, if I like I had said before, if I had walked into a hospital and I had cancer, they would treat me so much different. And even today, I go into the hospital and not having an addiction problem, it's still in the system. So I I remember, just real quick, I remember I came into the hospital. My daughter was flight lifted for life. I came in
From a car
from a
accident.
car accident that I had. I went airborne and I had broken my back. And I went into the hospital and they are doting after. The care is just wonderful. I get up to the room, and in their system, they have that I have been addicted to opiates. And so they already start treating me different. It's like, we can't give you anything. You were an addict, and I literally I cannot move.
Right.
I literally cannot move. I was put in emergency surgery to get the rods put in so that I could move. So the pain, just screaming, and so already, having to live that from 2016 to 2023, I hadn't had that stigma really that harsh since then.
Yeah.
And then the car accident hit me, and I'm like, I'm looking at them like, what the heck? Like, I haven't done this. I haven't taken an opiate since January 3rd of 2016. I have children, I have businesses, I have this, and just the treatment after that was so much different. And
what would you say? What would you say to us? Because I remember getting scared too, Kayla.
Yeah.
I remember getting scared, like, oh gosh, are we going to go through this again? What is this going to look like? She's in real pain. What's the care, the treatment, the aftercare? So what would you say to those, if those nurses and doctors were sitting right here? What do you want them to know?
Compassion. We need to, there needs to be some compassion there. Especially,
just talk with more compassion.
I think,
have an energy of compassion.
Well, like I said, we have this. I have seen it so much. We have this stigma of, well, they're addicts, so let them go. Let them. I saw this story when I always watch these things on like fentanyl stories, and her son had gotten out of the hospital within 14 hours, and he died by a pond because the Narcan had worn off. And they said, he's an addict. He'll, we have to discharge him. And, they obviously got in a lot of trouble for that, because nobody should be treated like that. But the Narcan had worn off, and he had, I think it was enough to kill 6 people in one pill that he had taken. And the Narcan had worn off. The mom had to get home to her other 4 children, and he had died right there by the pond, just a couple minutes from her house. And she was a nurse. And she said in the video, she said, I was one of those people, one of those nurses, that when an addict would come in, we would all kind of laugh, put them to the side, right? They were addicts. And she said, now that my son has died from fentanyl poisoning, she said, when they come in, I look at it so differently. So sometimes, and she said, I wish it wasn't like that, because why did it have to happen to me for me to now have that compassion? And sometimes it takes people for it to happen to them.
Yeah.
But that's where we don't want to get to. We don't want to get to where when it happens to our family. We need to have compassion every person should be treated equally. That's just what it is all about.
Yeah.
And I think addicts are extra special. We are extra special because we have a story to tell, and there's a reason. I say there's a reason why I am an addict, and it's to get the word out there, to spread this message.
Sure.
Because it's not, unfortunately, right now, it is not getting better. But there's something that we can do, and that is educating ourselves, educating our children, and educating other people on what's going on in the world right now, for sure.
And to add to that, educating on mortality.
Yes.
Keep talking openly about these silent things that are taking lives way earlier.
Mhm.
I going through the addiction in our family, I too was the nurse who I just thought drug addicts are just people who take, people who don't,
Takers.
they're takers. They don't care about society. They don't care about me. They don't care about anyone. But the reality is what I've noticed in my own family and even with my own children, typically the people who steer more towards addicts or addiction, and believe me, I have addictions in other ways. It just wasn't in drugs. Is we are very sensitive people. We are sensitive people who care about the world, who care about people, and then we get out in the world, and all of a sudden, it's not like that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And
You hit it right
then
on.
we have to figure out how to live in a world that's not kind and respectful and resourceful and loving, because I've just studied in my own direct family that the people who went to addiction were the most sensitive ones. They weren't like me, who could just go, okay, you called me that name, I can let it roll off my back.
Mm-hmm.
It was more of people would say something to them and they took it internally and they didn't know how to just let it roll off their back. Or through divorce, some people take it differently. Some children deal with divorce differently than other children.
Mm-hmm.
I'm from that family of a divorce, and it was devastating, like a death. You have a life this way, and then all of a sudden it's not like that way anymore. So it is like a death.
Right.
And having to learn how to be that new person with the new situation, circumstances. So that's my thought, is just by observing so many people who have been addicts directly close to me were the sensitive ones. They didn't
Yes.
want to adapt to a world that was unsensitive. They had to go to another resource, and that was numb out and just accept it the way that it is, because the world can beat you up really quick.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was just walking Patch this morning. It was so interesting, totally a direct relatable to what we're talking about today. And my Patch, I take him to the park all the time, at least 4 or 5 times a week.
I know. I don't know how you do it.
He has people that know him very well and will give him a treat. Today was different. I was walking, there was another boxer, the gentleman and I struck up a conversation, and Patch is just lucky go, and he's sitting there politely like he's thinking this guy's going to give him a treat. And for some reason, the gentleman he let go of his dog's leash, and the dog immediately attacked Patch. And here I have Patch on a leash. I'm like, you should have never left him off of that. And of course my heart's racing. Patch was fine, but his feelings were really hurt, because Patch lives in a world where everybody gives him treats.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden this dog pounced on him. And I thought, what a great example of how life can be sometimes, is out of the blue, unexpectedly, we're pounced on, and we don't know how to deal with it if we don't have people there to kind of just say, hey, like, watch your dog, don't get him off the leash until they've met each other and they've gotten used to each other. And I know he felt really bad, and I felt bad too, because I'm like, I have empathy for people who he didn't mean to do that. Right. It was never intentional. He just thought, he told me that his dog when he lets go of the leash means his dog is trained not to protect him.
Mhm.
Like he's okay. But in this case, he saw another male dog, another male boxer. That was, I was kind of
That's
teasing him.
funny.
I said, well, Patch is a little bit more fit than him, but your dog is definitely got the bigger end because he's larger.
Right.
And I said, look, it's okay. Let's just next time take the time for these dogs to get to know each other and not expect for them to get along right off the bat, not knowing each other.
Yeah.
So
This world
anyway,
can be a
it was interesting to kind of go through
go
that
through that. Yeah.
today.
That's funny. Out of all days, yeah. This, the world can be a cruel place and mean, and it can chew you up and spit you out. But as long as we can be those people to be kind, I try to just be, everybody that I meet, just to be extra kind, because you don't know what they're going through.
Yeah.
You don't know what they have been through. And most people that I tell my story to, they're like, you? No, you could have never done. And
Yeah.
listen, it can happen to anybody. It can happen to anybody. This is not a, we're pick and choose type thing. So this just needs, public awareness and really getting to the root of the problem. I think when I started to get to the root of the problem, the trauma, where it all came from, is when I was actually really start to begin my healing journey. And any addicts that are out there, I say, take suggestions from people. If you want what they have, take the suggestions, because what do you have to lose? We as addicts, and we're in that, we don't have anything to lose. So that's my advice for that. Take those suggestions. When you don't want to do it, just do it. Just do it. And yes, get to the root of the problem. My thing was therapy. I still do therapy, and that's good for me. It's a good outlet to get those emotions and stuff out, because listen, even after addiction, even after you've gotten clean, there's more things that come
Yeah.
and you have to deal with. And just like, you may never have done drugs, but there's other things that you deal with.
Yeah.
And we just all deal with them in a different way. And so, what does it cost to be kind? And what does it cost to be, I may not have walked in your shoes, but I can be there for you. You can talk to me, and I feel it's the same way. And I'm like that with other people. It's just give a little more love. And yes, we are a little more sensitive. We like to act like we're not, but we are. We definitely are more sensitive.
The talk is one that I think is the most rewarding today.
Yeah.
I am so thankful that we can be open and honest and cooperative, and for any family who just feels that there's no hope, there is. It's staying in it for the long haul. Like I'm in it for the long haul. We're always here. We're always praying for my son, your brother. We're always praying for other people to reach out and get with the people who have kind of been through it, to keep talking, keep openly talking, and not giving up any hope. I know that Austin knows that he is loved. I know that he knows that, his life is his life. He gets to choose.
Life matters.
His life
and
matters.
We love him. He has a family that loves him.
Yeah.
And he is everything that is great about him is still great. He's still an awesome person.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we need to take out everything that is everybody thinks is so awesome about me. Take the drugs out of it, because he's still a human being, and he still, loves to play guitar, and he still loves to do all these things. And, that's what we talk about. But for the people that have lost a loved one in this, that's where I say, just public awareness. Now they can, help other people, because that's all they have.
Yeah.
All they have now is to look at something that went so wrong, and most parents, they didn't even know. Most people, friends, everything, they didn't know. So just for all those parents that have already lost somebody to this, my heart goes out to you. Definitely.
And you did nothing wrong.
No.
You did nothing wrong. People have their own choice to the way that they live, and I think people have their own choice sometimes to the way that they pass. And Permission Mission is a platform that we're able to openly discuss so that we find some peace in the passing and peace in the preparedness. I always want to remind you of the 5-second rule. 5-second rule for Permission Mission is to favor inside. And favor inside, meaning, we do matter. Every single person matters, but it is up to us to favor ourselves first, because recognition doesn't always come from the outside. It starts from the inside. Be a little kinder to yourself allows you to be kinder to other people and value everyone and everything, because everything does matter and everyone does matter, regardless of where they come from or what their situation is.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, we're here and then we're gone.
Right.
And we only have this short time to be together to make it all work. Next week, we have Raina McDonald, who is an attorney. Their law, called the Eclipse Law Group, is in Henderson, and they have been top of the 100 lawyers for Best of Las Vegas and top 100 women in Las Vegas. She is a best-selling author, and she is going to be on the show next week. We're very excited to have her. And Kayla, thank you for your bravery today. Thank you for being my daughter, a recovering heroin addict. And now I'm going to have to add on my Facebook that I am a proud mother recovering of everything.
Yes.
Because I don't care what the problem is, there are thousands of solutions to always overcome even the worst situations, when we talk about it and when we bring public awareness to it, and also when we just say we're open to the educational part of it.
Yes.
So
definitely educational, bringing purpose in it. And when my book is done, then I'll be next.
Okay, when her book is done. Yeah. Caitlin's got a book that's going to be written after this show. All right. Have a fantastic week, everyone. We'll see you next week. Always feel free to go to my website, permissionmission.com. Connect with me if you have a particular topic that you would like me to speak openly about on the show. I'd be more than happy to do that. If you have an opportunity to share this video, it is on YouTube. It's also on the WWDBTV, Facebook.com, and also Mary McElhatton and Permission Mission on Facebook. Have a great week, everyone.